Hello there, my name is Misha. I'm a DevOps engineer from the Netherlands, and when I decided to switch my career to DevOps, I made a huge mistake that cost me months of progress. Want to know what it was? I waited way too long with starting a Homelab. I thought I needed a big budget and all this expensive gear and these huge racks, but I couldn't have been more wrong. In this video, I'll show you how I could have kickstarted my DevOps journey much earlier for absolutely free. You will learn how to build a powerful home lab with stuff you already have lying around probably, or by using absolutely free cloud services. Don't make the same mistakes I did, whether you're just starting out or you're already in your journey and you're developing yourself. This video is going to save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. Let's dive in. When I started out, I waited way too long with putting my learning into practice when studying Linux and Kubernetes. I was like watching tutorials and reading all the books and like really getting into the theory, but I was waiting way too long with actually practicing the commands, right? Like, of course, I was practicing a little bit, but I should have started with that much earlier. Because now, being where I am now, I know that the actual real learning happens when you start typing them in and when you start making mistakes and when you start experimenting. That is the most important thing. You need to start experimenting. Because that's when you make the mistakes and that's when the real learning happens. Reading books feels like learning, but with this kind of stuff, you need to get your hands dirty. And while you can just run a VM on your laptop, that is fairly easy, especially with VMware Workstation being for free these days. There is something about having a dedicated box in your house with Linux on it that you SSH into, and that is just always on. There is something special about being able to walk to that box and seeing it there and knowing that your stuff is running there. And one reason why I delayed my home lab was that I thought it would cost a lot. Like you watch these YouTubers like Techno Tim, they have these huge impressive racks and all of the neon lighting. And I mean, those are great guys and they're doing some amazing stuff for the community out there. And I highly respect them. But my own experience with that was that I thought, oh, I need to buy all this stuff. And it seemed like this huge thing. It seemed so daunting. Like starting a home lab seemed a very daunting thing to me. But in reality, you can start home labbing with stuff you have lying around in your house or with free options. And this is because of the beauty of clustering. When you use Kubernetes, you can start small. You can start with one small little box, one small machine, and expand your home lab as your requirements grow. If you are completely fresh and you're just learning Linux, all you need is a command line and 2 GB of RAM to run commands. That's all you need. You only need a very small machine, a virtual machine, a Raspberry Pi, just something. You don't need much. And then as you become more proficient, and especially if you discover the wonderful world of self-hosting, then you might want something more stable, right? Like as you're learning, you're constantly destroying your machine, you're building it up again, you're breaking things. But as you become more proficient, you have a few apps that you would like to run. Well, then you want to start looking into containers. And to do that, I would go straight for Kubernetes. And when you think of Kubernetes, you might think of like a big cluster of multiple nodes. And of course, that is true in the real world in production. But the reality is you can run a Kubernetes cluster on one machine and not even like splitting that up into VMs. No, you can just run a single node Kubernetes cluster with K3s, for example. You can have the control plane and the worker node on just one machine. So you can just start with a small machine, with one small thing. And that's where the power of Kubernetes Homelab shines, because when your first machine starts running out of memory, you have a few apps running on there, you can just add another node to your cluster. You can expand it. So if you just start out with an 8 gigabyte RAM machine, an old laptop, for example, with Ubuntu server on it, using K3s, you have a very solid, small little cluster. And then you build up your collection of self-hosted apps. You start running out of memory. Well, then you start looking into getting another machine for really cheap and just pop it into your cluster and expand it as your demand grows. So you don't need this big one-time investment. You don't need a big server. You can just start small with one cheap thing and then build it out. And the best thing, like the number one recommendation I can make is old laptops. You might think, oh, I need a Raspberry Pi, I need a server, I need a tower. Nope. I started out with a 10-year-old laptop with 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's my first Kubernetes cluster was running on that. And that's all you need. And the chances are that either you or someone you know has an old laptop lying around. Like I'm 95% certain that you have it. And I'm 99.5% certain that if you ask 10 of your friends and 10 family members, that one of them is going to have a old laptop lying around that you can either borrow or get, or you can trade it for an afternoon's painting or something, right? You can get a laptop for cheap anywhere you are in the world. I'm highly confident on that. And the beauty of this is that Linux, if you're learning Linux, this runs everywhere. Linux runs almost anywhere, and all you need is just Ubuntu server, and Docker, and you have all you need to know to learn cloud engineering. You need to learn Linux, you need to learn containers, and all you need is a 4 gigabyte RAM laptop for that. And my current Homelab is now 6 nodes, but the control plane of my Homelab is a 8 gigabyte RAM ThinkPad T420. I started with the 4 gigabyte one, super old thing, and then I managed to scrounge this T420 ThinkPad, and that is now the control plane of my Kubernetes cluster. And the advantage of that is that when I have a power cut, sometimes it happens like twice a year or something, then the laptop will have an built-in battery. So like the worker nodes, they can be turned off. Like it's not ideal, but in a Kubernetes cluster, a worker node can be turned off. Things will get rescheduled. If your control plane gets turned off suddenly, then you might run into some problems. But because the laptop has a battery in it, you don't need this like redundant power setup and all of these. I do want to get those eventually, but you don't need to invest in these setups where there's like a battery and that will save your cluster from going down because it has a few hours of power in there. So in terms of old laptops, like I said, I recommend ThinkPads, Lenovo ThinkPads, old MacBooks, they're also great, or Mac Minis. I mean, they are not technically laptops, but those are also great machines, or these old just thin clients. So this is my control plane currently in my Homelab. T420 ThinkPad. This is a great one, and if you also have these Lenovo thin clients. Let's see, like these kind of things, think centers. Almost any old office will have a few of these lying around. You can see if they are around for work, or I think it's HP Elite Desk. I think that's what I have yeah, my current Kubernetes cluster is running on a couple of these HP EliteDesk 800. Those are the nodes in my cluster. Super cheap. But this video is about free options. So you can either scrounge these from work, or you have like old laptops lying around. That's all you need. Secondly, old desktop computers, of course, also work. Like you probably have an old gaming PC lying around. Maybe it still even has a CD drive. Well, if this has like 16 gigabytes of RAM and maybe an i5 or an i7 processor, just delete it, install either Linux on it, or maybe even stick Proxmox on it. And a 16 gigabyte machine is a fantastic place to start running your first virtual machines. You don't need more than that. Just take the old stuff that you already have lying around and start with that. You don't need to buy anything. It can be a perfect option. Now, if you don't want to have a server here, you don't have hardware, you somehow are unable to get it, there are also some free cloud options. So let's look in those. Free cloud options. And the first of them is Oracle. Oracle has a free tier. Oracle free tier. Here. Just Google Oracle free tier. And here it says always free services. You can use these for unlimited time. 2 AMD compute VMs and up to 4 instances of ARM compute with CPU 18,000 gigabyte hours per month. And last time I checked, when I tried this, I was able to run one big beefy VM with 32 gigabytes of RAM for free, 24/7. 32 GB, 24/7. Like, this is a fantastic place to start. If you want to learn Linux, just get the free VM. You get a free VM. You can get multiple and SSH into those. But this is completely free, guys. And just get a big 32 gigabyte VM, install Ubuntu server on it, install K3s on it, and you have a big single node cluster where you can experiment to your heart's content. You can use just one button to reset the whole thing, and you will learn how to SSH into it. You will learn how to open ports in the Oracle firewall. Fantastic. Great way to start. Completely free. And next, there is the Azure free trial. Azure free trial. So when you create an Azure account, then you will get $200 of Azure credit. So you just create an account, you connect your credit card to it, but you will never be charged. And then you get 12 months of free services. And in those free services is included Azure virtual machines, Windows or Linux, and 750 hours of B1 tier ARM-based. These are burstable VMs, so you get a small CPU initially, but when you need some more CPU temporarily, then it will be able to just burst out to that. And this is also this comes down to running one VM for 24 hours a day for a whole month. And if you have multiple VMs and you just turn them off when you don't need them, this is all you need. And then you also get all of this other stuff for free as well. There's so much more for free. And the big advantage is if you're becoming a cloud engineer, which is likely that you are because you're watching this channel, then you will also start picking up practical knowledge with Azure along the way, with firewall and networking, opening ports, and you will start to build up familiarity with the portal. This is completely for free. You can start a Homelab for free in Azure, and this is all you need to start learning Linux and containers. Completely for free. And I'm not affiliated, like I'm a Microsoft MVP, but I don't get any money for this or anything like that. So this is just a great way to get started for free as well. So those are the main ways. Either start with an old laptop, old desktop, old hardware, or start running in the cloud. And another thing is that I have my school community, and this is a bunch of nerds, all enthusiastic Homelabbers We have an entire Homelab section here where people are sharing their setups and where we share tips with each other. You can get feedback on your Homelab setup. We're constantly sharing new apps with each other, and some of us even have like these elaborate setups in the Hetzner cloud, which is really cool because Hetzner is super cheap. So that is also a great read. I highly recommend. So if you want to get started on your Homelabbing journey, my community is the perfect place to start. And I'll be increasing the price in 4 weeks from now. And the way it works that if you are getting in for the current price of $29, this is the price you will pay indefinitely if you stay in the community. So if you get in for $29 now and I raise it to $35 or something like that, then you will keep paying $29 for the rest of your life if you, no matter how much the price is increased in the future as the course portfolio and the value develops. So this is a great time to join because in a few weeks from now, I will be increasing the price. So wrapping up, just start with your Homelab. Don't make the same mistake I did, thinking that you need a bunch of money to get started. Don't. You stop reading books and watching tutorials. You need to get your hands dirty. You need to start running these commands. You need to start working on the command line. You need to start coding. And the best place to do that is on just a small Linux machine. It doesn't matter where it's running, how it's running, just start. If you follow my approach by running containers in Kubernetes, you can expand your lab as your knowledge grows. Your self-hosting journey can start small, like perhaps with a small cloud storage solution, a home assistant, a home automation server, an audiobook server, and then you can add more services like media services, VPNs, or even your own mail server as your knowledge and needs grow. And the beauty of a clustered Homelab is that it grows with you, allowing you to continuously learn and experiment with new technologies. Don't wait. Start your Homelab today with the resources you have around you. Pick up an old laptop and start exploring. And remember, if you struggle to get started, if you need help, if you need a place to ask questions, join my school community. We will all be very happy to help you on your way. If you need ideas for apps to run in your community, in your Homelab, this community is the place for you. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one.